Russia will hold its elections on March 18th of 2018, and Vladimir Putin, who is the current president of Russia, is planning on getting ahead of possible foreign agents who try to meddle in the country's elections. Now, he has called for a new foreign agents law, which essentially would force social media companies or any type of media company that has any type of exposure in Russia to be deemed worthy of investigation. And if there is any foreign player involved in that company, then they have to list themselves as a foreign agent. Now, here's what he had to say while he was talking to leaders in Russia's parliament. He says that we need to look carefully at how some companies work in internet, in social media, and how widely they are involved in our domestic political life. It should be carefully analyzed how they are operating and will be operating during the presidential election. Now, anyone who hears that statement might say, you know what, okay, that's reasonable. You don't want foreign countries to meddle in elections. We're very much concerned about Russia meddling in our elections. But you also have to take into account how Vladimir Putin operates in Russia. Remember that the last time he was reelected was in 2011, and there were mass protests because there's no real election. It's already predetermined that he is going to be the winner, and I'll tell you how. And right now, there is someone who's trying to challenge him in the election, and they're preventing him from being able to run, and I'll tell you that in just a second. But Cenk, jump in.
Yeah, so look, I think the US is going a little too far in going after Russian media outlets. So RT's a mixed bag. Sputnik definitely does just pure propaganda for Putin and the Russian oligarchs. But I don't like, okay, so they do propaganda, and Al Jazeera is owned by Qatar, and BBC is owned by the British, and CNN is largely owned by the establishment here in the US. And so, and MSNBC is owned by Comcast. Everybody serves someone, right?
Right.
That's why I think independent media is really important. So I think we overdo it. He's trying to go, oh yeah, then I'm going to target you guys.
Yeah.
And so, but he has the same kind of disingenuous reaction as a lot of the right wing here do. Like, oh my golly gee, I hear there's gambling in this establishment. People are trying to meddle in elections, and it's an obvious strike back, and it's totally disingenuous.
Yeah, I really like our master graphic. I feel like it's very smart.
It's clever.
Yeah. Anyway, so let me tell you a little bit about someone who is attempting to challenge him in the election and how he is being stopped. His name is Alexei Navalny, and he has been a very outspoken opponent of Vladimir Putin, despite the fact that some of his friends, who were also opponents, were murdered while they were protesting Putin after the 2011 election. Now, Navalny has been drawing a lot of attention to the oligarchs in Russia and also Russian corruption, and he was punished for doing so by facing these trumped up criminal charges involving embezzlement. So let me give you the details about that. Navalny has been repeatedly dragged into court on charges of fraud and embezzlement. In the summer of 2013, though, he was sentenced to a 5-year prison term, which was changed to a suspended sentence when thousands of people again took to the streets, risking arrest. At the end of 2014, Navalny was sentenced to house arrest, and his brother was imprisoned, in effect taken hostage. Now, Navalny did not fight these charges. He went to the courts, the European courts, to fight, and he appealed all of his convictions to the European Court on Human Rights, where he has won every single time. Most recently, the European Court labeled Navalny's 2014 conviction and sentence as arbitrary. So in Russia, though, he's still considered a convicted criminal, which prevents him from running against Vladimir Putin. So anytime there's opposition against Putin, someone is either exiled, they emigrate to another country, or they're mysteriously murdered, or they have to face these weird random criminal charges when they haven't really, there's no proof that they've actually done anything wrong.
So every country has its elites, and a lot of them try to find different ways to give you false choices by the time you're voting in the election. So some are more sophisticated, some are very blatant. So in Iran, it's the mullahs. You can't run for president unless you've gotten approval from the mullahs. That means the Iranian people have false choices. So it's a really conservative guy approved by the mullahs, or kind of a moderate, but in reality super right-winger also approved by the mullahs. In China, it's the communist committees that decide who will be allowed to run and who won't. They took Hong Kong back, and Hong Kong lost their democracy. All of a sudden, they got 2 Chinese communist government-approved candidates, and they're like, what? You still have democracy? Now vote for the 2 guys we really, really like, and we'll control your lives. So here in America, our elites are the donors, and they're a tiny, tiny fraction of America, and arguably a smaller fraction. No, definitely. I saw Larry Lessig did a presentation on this. A smaller fraction than the communist committees in China as a percentage of the population. So our donors get to decide who our false choices are. And then in a general election, everybody yells at you and says, no, you have to vote for the less monstrous person. And that's true, I would vote for the less monstrous one, but that's why primaries are so important. That's why now small donors, I think, are making a big difference in upending this system, and why we got to get money out. But we do have false choices here in America too. But in Russia, it's more brazen and it's more of a sham. You literally can't go on the ballot unless Putin approves it.
You can't have anything aired on television in Russia unless Putin approves it.
So what kind of a sham election is it? I mean, Saddam Hussein would be slightly embarrassed at how fake these elections are. So Putin's, I will decide who is running against me. You schmuck of the earth, you. But you're being strong. No, you're not allowed on the ballot.
No, but you're absolutely right about that, because they will literally reach out to people that they want to run against Putin to make it appear as if there is some sort of option there for the voters. Which is why in 2011 there were so many protests, right? Look, I'm not talking about Russia in the context of what happened in this past election in the United States, right? This is completely separate. I just want to remind all the people who are vociferously defending Russia because of their hatred for Hillary Clinton that Russia has its issues because of Putin. Putin is a terrible person. He's murdered journalists, he's murdered opponents, okay? He's the one who was behind all of the anti-gay laws that passed in 2012. He's a bad guy. And so for those who are trying to make excuses for him and make it seem as though Russia's hunky-dory and politicians in the United States are just making it seem like things are bad there. No, things are bad there.
Okay, so by the way, just to give you a sense of, in 2012, 3 people tried to run against him: Navalny, Nemtsov, and Kasparov. No, not allowed. Kasparov has now been exiled out of the country. Nemtsov was killed in 2015. Gee, I wonder how that happened. And Navalny has been imprisoned, wrongfully so, according to the European Court of Human Rights, and is now being banned. So you speak out against Putin, not only do you not go on television, you could easily wind up 6 feet under. You try to oppose him. Eventually, they had another Russian oligarch run against Putin in that election, and Putin got 63% of the vote. When you rig the election and you have no competition and you only get 63%, Saddam got a higher percentage of that. Let's be absolutely clear. There is no real elections in Russia. There is no democracy in Russia. Putin is not the president of Russia, he's the dictator of Russia. You just watched a video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.